I should be more precise about this thing, about geometry related to the landscape, because sometimes for me, in some projects, there are some or historical landscape. Sometimes it's not a question of nature. For example, we were talking in Tiana House about these ancient walls related to the agricultural system in this area, etc. Or in some cases, like the university, where the geometries are related to the castle, the ancient castle. So sometimes for me, the landscape is not only the nature, sometimes it's the historical elements of this area, because every people has seen this castle, always, because nobody has more than 500 years, So, and then for me, it's part of the landscape, that this is part of the nature. And then about the nature, I think that in some projects where we try to work is with the idea about the nature, that it's always finished and unfinished. So you see a tree and it's finished, but it's bigger and it's finished. Or you see a branch or a part of the tree, or a leaf or something like that, and it seems finished and never is finished. So we thought sometimes in this idea about geometry in the houses like this, like clusters. We did say that we propose a system that could be finished, but perhaps not. They could have they could have a child if he founds a girlfriend, or I don't know, but the idea is that this idea that the geometry is not a question of directions. For example, when it's an historical landscape like Tiana or university, it's a question of directions of these lines. When it's this relation with the nature is more related to this idea about repetition, as a cluster, as a fractal system, as a change of scale or reduce the scale. So it's more related to a question of repetition, and the other is more geometry related to the idea of directions or main lines. I think that architectural can't imitate the shape of the nature, but can imitate the behavior of the nature, which is really, truly different. That's the difference between mimetic and contextual. So I think that for me, the architectural, so you can investigate about the nature, you can try to investigate how a tree is growing up, for example, or how is the behavior of the tree trying to find the sun to have the leaves, or how there are different kind of scales in the tree or different zones. So if you understand the behavior, you can repeat that in a house or in the architectural, as architectural system. But if you want to repeat the shape of the tree, you will never be a tree. So that's the difference. If you want to be mimetic, you will never be successful. If you want to be contextual, I think you'll be successful.
If you have to choose between cave or nest, what is your architecture about?
I would like to live in a nest inside a cave.
Yeah, that's what I said the other day. A nest-like cave.
No, I would like to live in a cave with a comfortable space of the nest. The cave is the emptiness, is the void, and the nest is the repetition.
Yeah.
So that's if you could see, you could do you are able to do a cave as a repetition, as a flexible, as you said before, with the flexibility of the nest, you could have a domestic cave, more domestic. House that is in a landscape close to Barcelona, with plenty of terraces, with trees, agricultural terraces, etc. And it's plenty. All the landscape from the sea is a landscape, plenty of walls. And the idea was that the wall should be a continuity of this landscape, so it should be an unfolded wall in the landscape, which is adapted to the slope. And then who is this geometry? So we have been talking about geometry, but the geometry is related to the walls of the place. So here it seems a really aleatory geometry, but in fact there are only 4 different directions. There are 2 directions related or parallel to 2 protected walls, stone walls that are in the plot, in the landscape. The 3rd direction is related to the way, the pathway to arrive to the house, and the 4th direction is related to the old farmhouse located in the same place. So in fact, this is an important thing talking about landscape architecture, because this house was close to another old house. So our idea was to avoid to compete with the house. The old house is a house like a box with windows, with perforations. Here the idea is different. Here with the house, we wanted to have a continuity of the background of the old house.
Of the landscape.
Of the landscape, exactly. The house is trying to have a precise point that where is located the house. So the house is in the upper part of the plot. When you arrive from the road, you cross first the trunks of the trees, so you understand that the trunks are like a hypostyle hall of the house. So it's like the first entrance. You use the landscape as a hypostyle hall, so you use the landscape as a part of the architectural decision. And then the house is just located in section to have a continuity with the existing sections of the terrain, and at the same time it's in the same level of the leaves. So you take account of the pass of the seasons, because the leaves, the winter, the summer, etc. are changing the facades of the house. And when you arrive to the roof, as a continuity of this landscape, when you arrive to the roof is just in the level where the limit of the trees are like a banister, like a veranda. So you understand that the forest is the banister, and then you recuperate the long views that you had when you were driving the road. So it's always related to the close landscapes and the further landscape. Well, I love these houses, so case study houses.
Yeah.
You know, the books here, and I love this kind of houses. Pierre Koenig and Koehler are my favorite. Well,
okay.
The Eames, obviously. No?
Yes.
But and then for me, that what I liked in this kind of houses was it was a system of the construction system. No? So it was something fast, etc. No? But for me, there were always houses that were closed, totally closed. And here, what I think that I incorporated another concept, which is related to the 50s too, but to the Smith zones, Altomanaic, etc., to the Team 10, which is the idea about cluster. This idea about the repetition means that something is finished and unfinished at the same time. So this was a house for a single man, 400 square meters. So if you do a 400 square meters for a single man, like a box, he could commit suicide, perhaps. No? So I thought that it could be nice to have small houses, the sofa house, the bed house, etc. And at the same time, this cluster, what it's trying is to introduce the landscape inside. No? The road is in the upper part, and as we could see here, all the house is developed in only ground floor. There's only one place where you have 2 floors, and this element is floating because it's the living room, and then you arrive with the car and you park here. So it's the only point where you have these longest views to the further landscape. And then you understand that when you have all these clusters, you allow to have this patio inside. And I say patio because for me that was really important, because we're in the upper part, but the south facade is here. So what I tried is to increase the perimeter of the south facade related to the orientation. But here is just the forest, and here was the emptiness of the forest. So the forest is working like the walls, working like the house, defining these patios between the concrete walls and the trees that we found here. Yeah. That was another important thing, is how you finish these walls that are provoking this kind of privacy in this transversal view, but you have always this transparency in the longitudinal views. No? So you have always one element or one wall that is going out, no? Trying to help you to go out. And there is another one that is always with these big cantilevers, that in some points is 3-4 meters, that is trying to say to the landscape, go in. So, and then you have always this transition between inside, outside, and at the same time, when you arrive to the end of these spaces, you never are in this situation, no? Where you see always in this way. You always see in the diagonal way.
So it's this kind of movement of...
It's this kind of movement that we have here.
Parallel movement of in and reverse.
Exactly. You go out and the landscape go in. And then you